Hello, Wolfpack! Are you feeling frustrated now that we're all back in school? Well, I certainly hope so, because this is a great way to factor out your rage with these games. This is the top 5 beat-em-up games. Number 5. The Simpsons arcade game. This is a classic game. It used to be on sale on the Xbox Network and the PlayStation Network, but has since then been removed. I'm not sure about the PlayStation Network status since I don't own a PlayStation, but the Simpsons game is still one of the greatest beat-em-up games ever. It starts out with the family going on a vacation, as they usually do in most episodes, until Smithers robs a jewelry store and accidentally abducts Maggie when a diamond he stole lands in her mouth because she mistakes it for a pacifier, which is weird because I always thought Maggie was the smartest Simpson, even more than Lisa, but, you know, the plot demands it. So the Simpsons go on a quest to rescue Maggie from the evil kidnapper Smithers and get her back safely. However, they have to travel through a town which somehow has a lot of guys in suits who are against the Simpsons and threatening to beat them up just because they want their baby back. It's ridiculous as it sounds, but hey, so is the Simpsons show. The Simpsons arcade game was definitely fun, and it goes up to 4 players. You play as Homer, Marge, Lisa, and Bart Simpson. You travel through the great town and fight a lot of enemies in your path. And the enemies get more and more tougher as you go on, and somewhat creative. It goes from just guys in suits to clowns, circus performers, escaped animals. You go into the woods. And one of my favorite levels is the Dream World, where the Simpsons have to conquer their own insecurities and personal disorders and wake up to rescue Maggie afterwards. It's one of the more deep psychological levels of the game, surprisingly. But I still stand by this arcade game as one of the best. Every time I go to an arcade game, I always play it because it's definitely worth your money to have a lot of fun and play as the Simpsons as they beat up an army of enemies. Number 4. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. Pick whichever you want. The first one, second one, third one, the fourth one, Turtles in Time, is the one we're most familiar with because that's the only one we still see out right now. But the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they've always had the funnest video games out of all of them. Some of the modern ones, not so much, but their classic arcade ones based on the 80s cartoon are the most well-defined beat-em-up games ever. This was back when Konami was famous for making good games and actually had fun in them. You play as the 4 turtles, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael, as you have to save April O'Neil from the Shredder. Yeah, big shock. April O'Neil captured again. Yeah, that's original. But you get the point. The fun is you fight Shredder's goons, an army of foot ninjas, which are actually robots, so feel free to cut and kill them without showing blood. But Ninja Turtles is one of the best beat-em-up games ever. It got better and better as it went on, and the bosses got tougher and tougher. The Shredder, of course, was one of the most notorious bosses because he could kill you in a few hits, which made him the most challenging opponent of them all. However, the Ninja Turtles, they are one of the greatest franchises ever made. And this game, I am proudly to say that it's okay for adults and children because you definitely get a real kick kicking some shell with these turtles. Number 3. The Battletoads. This was one of the more obscure games, and I must say, this game was kind of confusing on who its target audience was. At first it seemed like it's a children's game, but then it got more and more adult as it went on. Nevertheless, I felt like this was kind of a more family-friendly game at first. Main heroes, 3 toads named Zitz, Rash, and Pimple. Yes, those are their actual names. As they fight their evil enemy, the Dark Queen, one of the greatest video game villains ever created, and one of the first female villains ever in video games, which is kind of surprising, but cool nonetheless. The Toads have to fight the Dark Queen's forces and prevent her from conquering the universe. However, the Toads each have their own unique special moves, and it's very fun to play as. The levels can sometimes get repetitive, but this beat-em-up had a creative atmosphere, fun gameplay, colorful characters, and is a classic among the beat-em-up games. Hopefully one day the Battletoads will be renewed to stick it to the evil queen once more. Number 2. Beautiful Joe. This was one of Capcom's few beat-em-up games, but it definitely was memorable. Beautiful Joe is about a nerd who likes movies and is following his favorite superhero, Captain Blue, in some kind of film festival. He goes to all of Captain Blue's films and such, and is much like us video gamers, we wish to be these characters that are so awesome and be exactly like them to fulfill our nerdy fantasies. However, Beautiful Joe's dreams come true once his girlfriend is taken by the villain of Captain Blue's newest movie, and Joe enters the movie land as a superhero Beautiful Joe and must fight through wave after wave of enemies to save her and get her back. Beautiful Joe was definitely one of the most creative Capcom titles ever. The graphics are slightly dated, however they do pack their own creativity and beauty to them. Beautiful Joe is such a likable character considering that he's so relatable to a lot of gamers and movie fans, and you don't have to be familiar with the superhero movie cliches to get a kick out of it. It does parody a lot of how movies become Hollywoodized and how some of your favorite stories are adapted to the point that you don't even recognize them anymore. But Beautiful Joe had a lot of quirky humor, an interesting character, fun playability, and lots of replay value as you beat up wave after wave of enemies. Yes, this game was certainly the most beautiful of all the beat-em-up games. And finally, we reach our number 1. Batman, the Arkham series. Yes, this is one of the more modern beat-em-up games. Before Batman became an open-world game, we have the Arkham Asylum, which started it all. It's pretty much a beat-em-up just in a 3D environment, and boy was it fun. This game dives deep into the classic beat-em-up fighting, but does introduce new elements like detective work and scanning areas and exploring, and of course the classic action-adventure that you expect from a Batman game. However, this game is surprisingly defined as more of a beat-em-up than anything else, but Batman Arkham series is one of the best beat-em-up game series ever. I enjoyed it, certainly, and there are lots of Arkham fans, too, who enjoy punching the enemies and defeating a lot of Batman's enemies while playing as the Dark Knight himself. Since there are no guns and non-lethal weaponry, Batman just does beat 'em up, pretty much, and his gadgets only increase your beat-em-up abilities, making Batman the Arkham series the #1 beat-em-up game series to ever exist. Here are some honorable mentions that you might want to see on this list, but didn't quite make it in. Double Dragon and Knights of the Round. No, it's not Knights of the Round Table, it's just called Knights of the Round, which is weird because I think Knights of the Round Table sounds more, to the point. However, many of you don't know this, but Knights of the Round was just an SNES game at first. However, it does have a lot of memorability as you play as King Arthur, Lancelot, and Percival as you fight your way through the evil armies. Double Dragon, I'm not entirely sure about. It's a very old game, but nonetheless, a lot of people remember it, and so deserves a mention here on the top 5 beat-em-up games. Thank you for watching Wolf and Friends gaming videos. We hope you like, comment, and subscribe, and join us more for future videos from this channel. Goodbye.